Arkansas running back Mike Washington, some great bulletin board material for the Volunteer defense and why that probably wasn't the best idea for the Hogs.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Thursday morning. Locked On Vols, couldn't do it without you every dayers. Thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day, free and available wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You can download the app, FanDuel Sportsbook app, today. I am your host, Eric Cain, a member of the VolQuest.com team here in town, so appreciate you guys for being here with us here today, and of course, following along with everything that's happening with Tennessee football each and every single day. Today's episode is going to be a fun one. Going to chat two segments, throwing it back, talking about the 1971 Liberty Bowl win over Arkansas with Neyland Press Corps' Noah Taylor. That's coming up in segments 2 and 3, and about Championships Corner coming to Neyland Stadium fall of 2026. Thoughts on that coming up in segments 2 and 3. But first, you have a running back for Arkansas that did what you should not do. You have PR directors, you have SIDs that are sitting there cringing. He gives Tennessee's defense some excellent bulletin board material, but to be honest with you, is he wrong? The answer is no, he is not wrong. However, he still shouldn't have said that. Both can be true. What I'm getting at here is you have Arkansas running back Mike Washington during a media availability earlier this week. He's quoted in saying this, quote, "They have a great defense," that being Tennessee. "They have a great defense, but a lot of holes in their defense, so it's going to be a fun game," end quote. That's all he said. I mean, nothing too outlandish, nothing. He didn't go on and on and on and talk about how Tennessee was bad in this respect or bad in that respect or call anybody out by names, but he said, quote, "They have a great defense, but a lot of holes in their defense, so it's going to be a fun game." Well, first and foremost, let's start from the principle of where he's not wrong. Tennessee's rush defense has not been good enough. It's middle of the pack to bottom half of the league for sure. It's certainly not as bad as Arkansas's, what we'll get to here in a moment. But Tennessee's rush defense has not been the best. Over 200 yards gained on the ground in 2 SEC games against Mississippi State and against Georgia. Sacks have pushed that back to under 200 yards. But if you're talking about yards gained, both the Bulldogs of Georgia and of Mississippi State gained over 200 yards. So that's not good enough, don't get me wrong. Also, you look at Tennessee, and I've been kind of beating this drum for 2 weeks, right? You look at Tennessee's pass defense, ranks towards the bottom right in front of Arkansas. Look at Tennessee's scoring defense. I think it's 14th in the league. Not good enough. But again, scoring defense can be skewed a little bit because, again, take Mississippi State, for example. If you're new to the show and you hadn't heard me say this yet, here you go. If you're an everydayer, I'm sorry. This is about the 17th time I've said this. But take the Mississippi State game, for example. 4 scoring drives to touchdowns, only one of which came over 26 yards. Short fields. Go to the ETSU game. You had a bad snap from Sam Pendleton, and the Bucs scored 2 plays later, like from the 4-yard line. Scoring defense can be skewed, okay? And I think that's why you got to look at other factors. Certainly, rush defense, pass defense, third down defense, it's not been good enough, and they got to come a long way, right? They've really got to hone in on some things, and there's different reasons for that, specifically with the rush defense, losing contain, not setting the edge, allowing backs to bounce things out, not defending the perimeter the right way, bad angles from the second, the third layer, specifically the safeties, missed tackles. I mean, again, I'm not trying to say here that Tennessee's, that was such an outlandish comment, because it's not. However, as we continue to say here on the show, Tennessee's defense has scored 4 touchdowns. Tennessee is a takeaway machine. Tennessee's one of the best teams in the country in sacking the opposing quarterback. Prior to the bye, Tennessee led the nation in sacks. Tennessee is also tied for the national lead in sacks per game right now. Top 10 in TFLs before the bye. They're making plays. It's boom or bust, but they're making some plays. So I thought it was very interesting that Mike Washington would kind of go this route. What he said is not factually incorrect, okay? It's not factually incorrect, but why put that out there? On one hand, it's a losing season. They just fired your head coach. Offensively, you guys aren't the issue, so you guys really aren't the issue whatsoever, so you're kind of free. And so why not? What's holding you back? Nothing's holding you back. Why not say that? On the other hand, you're about to go into one of the toughest places to play in all of college football. A fan base of 102, 5, 4, 5, whatever it is now, 101, whatever it is, 101.9 something, that's going to be screaming and going to be crazy. It's going to be hard to hear when you're on offense. It's a very, very tough place to play. Why poke the bear, if you will, before you're about to go into Neyland Stadium? That's not necessarily the smartest move right there. Who is Mike Washington? Well, Mike Washington came over from New Mexico State as a transfer in the offseason. Had a really good year for him last year at New Mexico State. Over 700 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. He's the lead back for Arkansas this year. He's got 393 yards on the ground, 61 carries, averaging 6.4 yards per carry. It's good numbers, 4 touchdowns. He's got a couple of 100-yard games so far this season, or actually just one. He ran for 116 yards against Arkansas State on 9 carries, where he scored a touchdown. His best game, probably statistically, at least finding the end zone, came in a loss at Ole Miss, where he was 65 yards on 13 carries, 2 touchdowns, 70 yards on 15 carries against Memphis, where he scored, 63 yards on 15 carries against Notre Dame the last time out. So he's not had this big, massive breakout game, but he's been solid. He's certainly been solid as the lead back for Arkansas. But anybody who knows about Arkansas's offense or pays attention to the stats or watches the game knows that it's all about Taylen Green. Taylen Green's the running game, right? Taylen Green has the second most yards gained on the ground in the entire conference. If you factor sacks into that and take some of that away, he's still 4th in the top quarterback in the league in rushing. So everybody knows that the ground game is all about Taylen Green at Arkansas, not necessarily Mike Washington. But also, and I know he wasn't thinking about this at the time, but why throw all that out there when you know that your defense specifically has not been very good? Ranking last in the conference in scoring defense, total defense, rush defense, where they're giving up 168 yards per game, placing just in front of Tennessee and for the worst pass defense in the league at 259. Look at the last 3 games specifically, where it's a 3-game losing streak. Arkansas has allowed 41 points to Ole Miss, which is obviously a good team, 32 points to Memphis, which is a good team, but no reason Memphis should be beating Arkansas, and 56 points to Notre Dame, again, 3-game losing streak. On that 3-game losing streak, Arkansas is averaging giving up 43 points per game on 535 yards of total offense, 329 passing yards, 206 yards on the game. Notre Dame specifically wrapped up 641 yards of total offense, 210 yards on the ground. Memphis, the Tigers, group of 5, ran for 290 yards. 290 yards against this Arkansas defense. So it's kind of one of those where, okay, you can point out the flaws in your next opponent, but man, look at your own team. Your own team, that rush defense is putrid. It is not good whatsoever. Certainly not good at all. So again, I saw the comments and I'm like, that doesn't bother me because what he said's true. There's been some holes in Tennessee's defense. Tim Banks would tell you that. Bryson Eason on the defensive line, senior captain, would tell you that. Arion Carter, SEC's leading tackler, would tell you that as well. They got to get better. They know that. But why on earth would you want to poke the bear before coming into Neyland Stadium? That makes no sense to me. Makes no sense at all. So heard that, kind of surprised, but also is that kind of foreshadowing on what's to come? Obviously, Mike Washington, free to say whatever he wants. Kind of open. Are they going to play like that, knowing that Arkansas really has nothing to lose? They're a 2-touchdown underdog going on the road with an interim head coach. Is that going to open up to play free and not to really care whatsoever? I don't know. It could be a little bit of a foreshadowing thing to what's to come on Saturday. And even if so, will that be enough to make a difference? I don't know. I'm excited. We've been talking about this game for 2 weeks now. I'm excited to get out there and play or watch them play. Certainly, I'm not playing. No Tennessee fan wants that. But I thought that was interesting. Wanted to certainly bring it on the show. Mike Washington saying that there's a lot of holes in the Tennessee defense at very minimum. It can be true, because it is true. But at bare minimum, man, why on earth are you poking the bear before going on the road in the Southeastern Conference? Arkansas was on the road to Ole Miss, okay? So they know exactly what on the road it's like in the SEC. But what you're about to see at Neyland Stadium, you never saw while playing for New Mexico State. I can tell you that right here and right now. Hey, when we come back, 1971 Liberty Bowl. Tennessee escapes with a win over Arkansas. We're going to dial it back about 50 years and a little over 50 years and talk about the 1971 Liberty Bowl victory with Noah Taylor on Neyland Press Corps. We do Throwback Thursday coming up next right here on Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep by tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer right there. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on the job everywhere, where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score some serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and the dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use that promo code SHCollege5, SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. The NFL season is here. FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using the FanDuel Sportsbook app because it gives me so many different ways to play. Built-in parlays, player props, even jumping in some live betting options during the game when these MLB playoff games are getting in the 7th, 8th, 9th innings. Or, when you're keeping track of your fantasy team on Sunday afternoons, it gives you just a little bit more to be invested in. And plus, it can put some coin in your pocket today as well. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Again, place a bet. Put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's for new customers. FanDuel.com. They download the FanDuel app today to go ahead and get started. FanDuel.com, where you can make every moment more. Throwback Thursday time here on Locked On Vols with Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Corps. It's been we took Tennessee was off last week. You took the week off. You're on vacation, and so we're getting you back here on the show today. A good story on the 1971 Liberty Bowl, where Tennessee edged Arkansas 14-13, and I had no recollection of this game, obviously, so I was learning about it firsthand whenever you were writing about it. But it seemed like a game where, man, it took a Herculean effort defensively to win it. You were absolute trash offensively. You were gifted essentially a turnover late in the game, and then Tennessee took advantage.
Yeah, the gifted part sounds pretty familiar when it comes to Tennessee and Arkansas. An Arkansas team it definitely wasn't the last time that an Arkansas team was trying to put Tennessee away and put the ball on the turf. But this is a game that 71, a really good season for Tennessee. About a couple weeks before this, they beat a number 5 Penn State, who was undefeated. I know we've talked about that game on this show before, but in 1971, 31-11, kind of a similar situation for Tennessee. Didn't have a great offensive day against Penn State. Defense played great, had a bunch of takeaways, scored on defense and special teams in that game. But they were without Curt Watson, their star running back. He had been injured against Vanderbilt the week before, had a pretty significant rib injury. It wasn't clear if he was even going to play in this Liberty Bowl game, which ended up being his last game at Tennessee. But he ends up being one of the heroes at the end. But to get to that point, like you mentioned, Tennessee had kind of a gift. Earlier in the second half, you're talking about a game that was decided by 1 point. Arkansas had a field goal wiped off the board because of a holding call. And then, of course, while they're trying to put the game away, Jamie Rotella strips the ball from John Richardson. It falls on the turf, conveniently right in front of the Tennessee bench. So Tennessee signaling they have the ball. Ref comes over, calls it in Tennessee's favor. The offense goes back on the field. Arkansas is contesting the call. They contested it well after the game, which we'll touch on that in a moment, I'm sure. But Tennessee gets the ball back, and then in 2 plays, Jim Maxwell. One thing I really liked about the story was there's a lot of heroes involved in this game late. Guys that didn't play well the whole game and then came up when it mattered most. Jim Maxwell, Tennessee's quarterback, was one of those guys. Spent a lot of his career as a scout team guy. He mimicked whoever Tennessee was playing against that week, the opposing quarterback. That was his entire career up until 2 months earlier, ironically in Memphis. He comes in because of injuries, leads Tennessee to a win over Mississippi State, comes up with a huge throw here, and then the next play, Curt Watson, who had just 39 rushing yards in this game, gets 17 on the game-winning touchdown. I say the game winner. It took George Hunt's extra point to pull off the game winner, but Tennessee escapes 14-13 and finishes 1971. I think second straight year they won 10 games. So an impressive victory. I think kind of set the tone. Obviously, Arkansas was a Southwest Conference team at this time, so long before their conference foes, but kind of set the stage for some wacky Tennessee-Arkansas games going forward, which I'm sure Tennessee fans are hoping Saturday afternoon is not one of those wacky games.
Yeah, hopefully, and you made reference to this, hopefully you don't need any of these heroics or these, the ball to fall your way or whatever on Saturday. But never know, man. That Arkansas team's potent offensively, and Taylor Green's a good player. But back to 71, back to the gift, if you will, the strip, the ball's loose on the turf right in front of Tennessee's bench, and you write in here that the Tennessee player had partial possession of it at the bottom of the pile, and then another Tennessee player ripped a guy off and he got more possession of it, and it's just kind of one of those, obviously no replay and you can't see what's happening at the bottom of a pile, and they awarded it to Tennessee. And then you may mention Frank Broyles and Bill Battle at midfield, and the Knoxville News Sentinel wouldn't print what was said. I thought that was pretty interesting, and the fact that back then, everybody's competitive. It's not like competitiveness has changed over the decades, but you didn't really get all over officials. At least I don't feel like it back in the day. It's like, okay, you respect the job that they were doing. And, more so now, I think you kind of drag officials. But, Broyles following the officials into the tunnel, letting them know about it, continuing to complain. That felt like, and I make jokes, but you weren't covering that game in 1971. It feels like that was abnormal for the time period.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great if you go to Vol Network's YouTube channel, which was a huge resource, like a lot of stories it is for me, but especially this one. They've got the Liberty Bowl highlight film from this game, and it's some great stuff on there. And it shows Bill Battle, Frank Broyles trying to talk after the game, and Bill Battle's trying to shake his hand and everything, and Frank Broyles is just going on and on about that call, even to Bill Battle. Bill Battle's not angry about the result, but he's letting him hear it too. And it's good stuff. There's even a great clip in there that right after that fumble, camera is like right over Bill Battle's shoulder, and he, without hesitation, turns around and calls for Curt Watson, tells him to be ready. I thought that was awesome because, again, this was a guy you weren't even sure was going to play. He's banged up. He's wearing hip pads that Mickey O'Brien, who was Tennessee's longtime trainer, they were 20-year-old pads that he had in a bin of just used gear and equipment. So pulled those out before the game, taped them on, and strapped them up, and is able to make the game-winning play at the end. And it's a wild story. It was a fun story to write, and like you said, it does seem abnormal for refs to kind of get chased down by a head coach, a college football Hall of Fame coach, by the way, Frank Broyles.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's one of those Tennessee-Arkansas games. I think 98 obviously gets a lot of talk, and rightfully so. That was the game that got Tennessee, or decided that Tennessee is going to finish that season undefeated and win a national championship. But this is one I think is a little bit overlooked because it's such a fun story.
I like the quote in here that you pulled from one of the newspaper clippings, and as you always do, you give credit from the News Sentinel, the Tennessean, the Journal, all that and more. The newspapers.com is what a great resource for you, right?
Yeah.
And it was Tennessee's quarterback Maxwell, and it was after the fumble. They jump on it, 2 plays. There's a pass where they get some yards before Maxwell takes it in for 17 yards. And on the throw, he said, quote, "I didn't see it, but when the crowd reacted, I thought it was Arkansas cheering, and I thought, oh my God, I threw another interception." When I got up and saw that Gary was holding the football, I felt right good about our chances. Love how they talk. End quote. And again, talking about heroes like Maxwell, former scout team player, career backup, had to come in and play the last month and a half, 2 months of the season for Tennessee in 1971. He threw 3 picks and fumbled once in this game. Again, offensively was disgusting. I think you wrote in here it was a Liberty Bowl record at the time. Gosh, I don't see how there could be any game in the Liberty Bowl that was worse than this offensively. 97 yards. Yet, when you had to make a play, you made a play, and that's what's really cool about this story.
Yeah, it's great. That's 71, one of my favorite teams. I know we've talked about them before on the show, but one of my favorite teams to read about.
Yeah, a lot of great guys, right?
Yeah, all great guys. Great guys. I used to go in the locker room back when we had all this access and interview these guys after games. They were such great dudes. Yeah, I mean, I love telling the story of these guys and what they were able to accomplish. Because 1970 for Tennessee was an incredible season. That was Bill Battle's first season after Doug Dickey had left for Florida. Wasn't really sure how successful they were going to be, and then they went 11-1, went to the Sugar Bowl, had a ton of defensive players that were very good. 71, you lose Tim Priest in 70, but you get Jackie Walker back at linebacker. You get Ray Nettles back at linebacker. You get Bobby Majors. There's a quote of him in there because an Arkansas assistant who had been at Tennessee was kind of the papers in Arkansas kind of giving him credit for Bobby Majors being an All-American. And, Bobby Majors in that post-game locker room said, I was a good player before he got here. We kind of put him on the map. So took a little offense to that. And then Tennessee's defense, like you said, showed out. And, speaking of Ray Nettles, my absolute favorite part of this story, and probably for people who've read it, is the story before the game. Tennessee's bus is heading towards the Liberty Bowl. They stop at a red light. A lot of Arkansas fans there. And this Arkansas fan is wearing the hog hat, which we all, I think we know what that is. Wearing the hog hat, he's mouthing off to Tennessee's bus. Ray Nettles reaches out and just snatches the hat off the guy, puts it on his own head. They get in the stadium, and he wears it in the pregame locker room, kind of parades it around, and then he gives the pregame speech and says, "There's no way we're losing to a team this ugly." He thought the hat was just atrocious looking. And then they back it up defensively. That's a big part of why Tennessee wins this game. And then he paraded around the locker room holding the Liberty Bowl trophy, wearing the hog hat again. And as you saw the photo there, just one of my favorite parts of the story. And I think he told reporters something like, "That guy wasn't talking much after I did that." So I think these two teams they're not historically rivals, but a lot of great stories, storied games between them. And I think it's just a fun. It's been a fun game in the past. It wasn't very fun last year in Fayetteville, but certainly Tennessee hopes to make better memories in Knoxville on Saturday.
We'll continue this conversation with Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Corps on the other side as we continue to throw it back here on Locked On Vols. Mazda craft cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride. The more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August of this past year. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every single detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday rides feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every single detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, where you can move and be moved. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call could be money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo, formerly known as Open Phone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox so that no customer gets left hanging. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer calls after hours, capture leads, keep businesses moving even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/LockedOnCollege. That is Quo, QUO.com/LockedOnCollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another device or with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're continuing on, throwing it back on a Thursday with Neyland Press Corps. Noah Taylor joining us, talking about the 1971 epic slugfest 14-13 win over Arkansas in the 1971 Liberty Bowl. Again, Tennessee taking on Arkansas this weekend. A wacky series. We kind of touched base on that at the tail end of the first segment here. Hopefully it won't come down to any of the theatrics in this game, but this is they don't play often, right? They play back-to-back season, but this is a game Tennessee has not won in four tries. So a chance to try to get off the mat. A lot of great stuff in here talking about that victory in the Liberty Bowl. As we kind of tie a bow on that conversation, I did want to mention Ray Trail, one of my favorite parts of the story. You end it by they're in the locker room, they're celebrating, and it was former offensive line captain or former captain of the 1963 Arkansas team, current offensive line coach for Tennessee, Ray Trail, and all the players just asking him to stand up and call the Hogs. I thought that was hilarious and a great way to end the story.
Yeah, it was awesome, and Ray Trail, certainly a colorful character in Tennessee football history. The guy that recruited Condrich Holloway, that sealed the deal on Condrich Holloway, who was at this time a freshman because of rules, was ineligible to play, but was a freshman on that 71 team. But definitely a colorful character that played at Arkansas, was from Arkansas. One thing that's interesting too about that 63 Arkansas team is the amount of Tennessee connections on there that come up later. But he played on that team, was a captain on that team, and the coaches or the players kind of thought it would be fitting for him to call the Hogs at the end of that game. Kind of reminds you a little bit of, not to this scale, or this scale is obviously bigger with Josh Heupel in Oklahoma last year, how big of a deal that was for him to go back there and beat them. Kind of interesting. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. I don't know that Tennessee players, I doubt they were getting Josh Heupel to climb up on a bench and Boomer Sooner or whatever they do there, but certainly a funny story, another colorful story in this game that I thought was really funny, and a locker room that seemed to be pretty hilarious after Tennessee won that game.
Yeah, no doubt. A lot of great stuff there, and it's interesting too. I'm looking at the dates. Okay, I wanted to make sure the dates kind of lined up. Trail would have had to have been teammates with Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones at Arkansas, right?
Yeah, he was a part of that team, and then Doug Dickey, who I know we'll talk about here in just a second, was an assistant at Arkansas before coming to Tennessee to be its head coach. Doug Dickey was replaced by Johnny Majors, who went to who we'll talk about as well in a minute, who went to Arkansas as an assistant, and then Jimmy Johnson, Johnny Majors, obviously faced off years later in that famous 1985 Sugar Bowl between Tennessee and Miami. And Frank Broyles was on the call for ABC in that game. So a lot of awesome connections there between the two schools that I think are a little bit overlooked. Like I said, and like you said when we started the segment, a game that's not played a ton, but certainly a lot of really great connection between the two schools and a lot of really fun stories like this one.
A lot to unpack from the 1971 Liberty Bowl victory, Tennessee over Arkansas. That's Neyland Press Cord. Go subscribe to it on Substack. It's free. You can give a donation. You can give a gift to Noah Taylor for all the great work that he's done. Awesome stuff that's always in my inbox every Monday morning. And pretty soon, you're going to be able to find these stories on another platform as well. Really excited for what's to come for Neyland Press Corps coming up probably in the next week or two. So stay tuned for that. And, of course, we talk about it on Locked On Vols every Thursday right here on Throwback Thursday. All right, before I let you go, I do want to get your thoughts on this. Tennessee announced a couple days ago, actually I think it was last Thursday, because I was on my way to Rivalry Thursday, that Tennessee's going to be honoring football national champion head coaches with a championship corner at Neyland Stadium beginning next season. So they're going to relocate, which the General was always going to come back to Neyland. You know, when they were doing construction, they took General Neyland's statue from wherever it was. I don't know exactly what gate that was, and they put him over at the Anderson training facility. He's been there the last couple of years. He was always going to come back, but he's coming back, and then they're going to have bronze pillars designed to honor Doug Dickey and Philip Fulmer. And it's going to be really, really neat to just another kind of pay homage to your history, right? And we'll get to the dispute or the Johnny Major side of this here in just a moment. But how cool is that going to be? It's going to be, you were kind of telling me, it's going to be near the ramp in the southwest corner, but a chance to honor the General, Philip Fulmer, and of course Doug Dickey for some national championships here at Tennessee. And of course there's one in 1967 that some people, you know, it's pretty pretty climactic in the debate, if you will, if that's a real national title.
Yeah, I think it's great. You know, I love this kind of stuff, so I was really excited to see that announcement on last Thursday. I think it's a wonderful that General Neyland statue, like you said, that's always been the plan, but to come back and it was in a great spot before, right there at the center, right at the end of Peyton Manning Pass, underneath the press box on that side. That was a really good spot, but I think now this is going to be a lot better because it honors. I think it's a little more prominent because the entire area around it's going to honor some of his teams, and then obviously, like you mentioned, Doug Dickey's '67 team, and then the '98 team that former coach. I think that's great. Like you said, that '67, it is disputed by some whether or not Tennessee should claim that or whatever the case may be. That's one of my favorite teams, '67. That's one of the first teams I when I first started doing this stuff. That's one of the first. You probably noticed if you follow Neyland Press Corps on Twitter or Instagram, I do a ton of 1967 posts because that team went. They played Gary Beeman, Heisman Trophy winner at UCLA, in week 1 at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum at night. Had a late lead they gave up. They ended up losing that game, I think, like 21-16. And then they didn't lose again until the Orange Bowl against Oklahoma, which another game where Oklahoma had a huge lead. Tennessee comes back and then had a chance to walk it off with a field goal by Carl Crimser that missed. I talked to Dewey Warren a few weeks ago. We brought this game up when we were doing the story on the '66 Syracuse game, and he swears that ball went in. So it depends on who you ask. So it was a really great season. It was Tennessee's first SEC title in more than a decade. And then Littinghouse ratings selected Tennessee as its #1 team. Now, Southern Cal got a lot of the #1 votes to win the national championship that year. I think Oklahoma finished 3rd and Tennessee finished 2nd in a lot of the major polls. But Littinghouse, which is funny, was started by a Vanderbilt grad. He's the one that picked Tennessee as #1 team based on his rating system. So it's a NCAA recognized national title. But, I think it's important to honor Doug Dickey for a lot of other things besides that. He won an SEC title again in '69, brought Tennessee back to national prominence because it was a program that was struggling before he got there. But we talked before this segment, running through the tee, the opening of the tee before games, back when they did it at the 50-yard line tunnel. Checkerboards in the end zones, the power tee on the helmet. A guy that brought a lot of that to Tennessee, like I think you had said it right before we started. This is a program that's recognizable not because of what it's on the field, also because of that, but also because of all these other things that come with it that Doug Dickey brought in. I think he was an innovator in that way, and then came back and had a really great tenure as an athletic director. So I think it's great that his contributions, certainly what he did on the field in '67, will be honored.
Yeah, every coach brings something different, obviously. I'm glad you brought that up. Doug Dickey, again, for people who don't follow Tennessee football religiously, checkerboard's power tee. I mean, that it's synopsis with what's going on here in Knoxville. And so bringing more than just wins to a program, Doug Dickey did so much of that. And, of course, rated #1, rated national champions by one publication in Littinghouse in 1967. So that's how he kind of getting into this championship corner, if you will. Obviously, General Neyland won how many? 5? 4?
4. Sorry.
4 national championships.
Yeah, 4.
Former won a BCS national title, of course, in '98. So that was the thought process, the national championships in this coach's corner. But and I'm not sitting here to say right, wrong, indifferent. It's a shame Johnny Majors isn't going to be highlighted, in my opinion, because what Johnny Majors meant to this program, both as a player and a coach, and didn't win a natty, but again, brought so much success here to Tennessee. And I know Tennessee does so much to honor Johnny Majors anyway, but that was kind of, I know a lot of fans are not frustrated, but kind of like, well, where's Johnny, right? Why isn't he being honored in that coach's corner? They're calling it the national championship corner or whatever, championship coach's corner, whatever it is, championship corner. Just call it coach's corner, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I hope at some point we do get a Johnny Majors statue. At the very least, one of him as a player. I know we talked about him a couple weeks ago about the Mississippi State game, his coming out party as a player. A guy that is Tennessee through and through, was from here, played here, and then again had the challenge, left a Pitt program where he had it made. He had just won a national championship in 1976, had it made, could have run the table again in 77, chose to come to Tennessee because he loved it here. And he wanted to he took the challenge of a rebuild that took a while. And there were some bumps along the way, but he set the stage for Tennessee's success in the 90s. And I know there's a controversial end to his coaching career, but it set the stage for what Tennessee was able to do in the 90s. 85, I think, is again one of the best Tennessee teams ever. Right here above my head, my friend John Wilkerson gave me this poster of that 85 team.
Nice.
That's a beloved Tennessee football team that was really a story of a bunch of underdogs that overcame a lot to beat Miami in the Sugar Bowl. But another coach too that I think you could throw in there is Bowden Wyatt, who was Johnny Majors' head coach in 1956. That team Johnny Majors was on as a senior. Tennessee went undefeated in their regular season. They won the SEC. They could claim a national championship if they wanted.
But it's not recognized, right? It's not recognized.
The school doesn't recognize it. And but that's a coach you could throw in there. And a guy, too, that played for General Neyland, coached at Arkansas at one point, came to Tennessee, and had a nice run. It kind of fell off there at the end, but had a nice run and was big in recruiting, getting Johnny Majors to come to Tennessee as a player. So there's some championships that Tennessee could certainly add to that and throw Bowden Wyatt in there, and maybe even some more from when Neyland was coach as well. But I think this is exciting. I think it's cool, and I thought it was really great in 21 when you had the Lester McLean, Condra Holloway, T. Martin, and Jackie Walker statues unveiled outside of Gate 21. I think this is going to be really cool. And I think, this is Tennessee. There's so much history here. I would love to see statues of everybody you can get out there, because I think that's a really cool thing, a really cool way to honor guys. And I know Doug Dickey will be at the game Saturday to be honored as well, which I think is fitting as a guy that Tennessee took away from Arkansas. He was Frank Broyles loved him. I wrote a thread on Neyland Press Corps a while back. You can search it on there, but it's about how Doug Dickey ended up at Tennessee. And Frank Broyles knew that guy was going to be a Hall of Fame head coach one day, and Tennessee came in and took him away. So pretty cool story there, and I think it was cool to see him honored not only next year with this Champions Corner, but on Saturday as well.
No doubt, a lot of history, a lot of great history of Tennessee football, and we learn about it every Thursday here on Locked On Vols, courtesy of Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Corps, in a segment we like to call, or today, segments we like to call Throwback Thursday. Noah, as always, man, looking forward to next week. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, Eric, as always.
Fun show here today on Locked On Vols, little extended Throwback Thursday segment with Noah Taylor, Neyland Press Corps, looking at the 1971 14-13 win over Arkansas in the Liberty Bowl, and some changes to honor some history at Neyland Stadium coming in 2026. All that, plus Mike Washington, go ahead and giving Tennessee's defense some bulletin board material. Will it make a difference? I don't know. I thought it was kind of strange that he would just offer up that bulletin board material anyway for people like me to do a whole show on it. But nonetheless, it's going to be fun to see what Arkansas and Tennessee look like in Neyland Stadium on Saturday. We'll come back tomorrow, Boogie Bentley for the Locked On Talking Vols, and give you my keys to a Tennessee victory. All that and more on a Friday morning, Locked On Vols. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, everybody. This is Locked On Vols.